I'll forget you in a week. I already found someone better. My fiancé sneered those words in front of his entire family, then watched me walk out with the ring I'd paid for. 3 months later, he was in handcuffs in my garage, drunk and screaming while I calmly handed the police my documentation folder. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Riley, I'm 32, and I rebuild heavy equipment for a living in Pittsburgh. Caterpillar excavators, John Deere monsters. Anything with hydraulics and enough horsepower to level a city block. When most people hear female diesel mechanic, they picture someone trying to prove something. I'm not. I just like fixing things that are broken and making them better than new. My side project? A 1973 Dodge Challenger I pulled from a field in Washington County. Complete rust bucket with a numbers matching 340 small block that was somehow still breathing underneath all that corrosion. 2.5 years of nights and weekends, bringing this beast back from the dead. My best friend Maya saved my life in this story. She does security systems, thinks everything needs cameras and documentation. After her messy divorce, she convinced me to start keeping records. Memories fade, receipts don't lie, she always says. Smart woman. Pay attention to Maya. She's the real MVP here. So about those wedding expenses. My fiancé Ethan and I agreed last February to split everything 50-50. I have the text thread to prove it. His exact words. Makes sense. We're both adults with jobs. I started tracking every expense like I track torque specs, precisely. Venue deposit, $2,800. I paid for it. He sent back $1,400 3 weeks later with some story about a delayed bonus. Made sense at the time. He worked in tech sales, so income could be unpredictable, right? Wrong. Caterer. $2,200 upfront. Same routine. I paid. He sent $800 and promised the rest next week. Meanwhile, and this is the part that should have been a giant red flag, he was posting Instagram stories from expensive bars, weekend golf trips, new tech gadgets, designer sneakers. But somehow never had money for wedding expenses we'd both agreed to split. I didn't push it. Not my style to create drama over money with someone I was planning to marry. But I kept records. Every single one. Here's the thing about diesel repair work. Problems don't lie. You diagnose the issue, order the right parts, fix it properly, move on. People? Way more complicated. Ethan had been treating our wedding like it was his personal networking event. He kept dropping hints about upgrading the venue, because people will judge us if we cheap out. And maybe I could pick up some overtime or sell that ridiculous car to free up money for what actually matters. Then came the Sunday dinner that changed everything. Ethan announced, didn't ask, announced, that his family wanted us over. His mother needed to coordinate final details. I told him I'd be there at 3 p.m. after finishing the brake line installation on the Challenger. He rolled his eyes. You always prioritize your little hobby over family obligations. When I pointed out that precision brake work can't be rushed without causing catastrophic failure, he said, maybe you should have thought about that before wasting money on a rust bucket. Sunday at 3 p.m. sharp, I showed up at his parents' place. Hands scrubbed clean, fingernails spotless. His sister Jenna was there with her husband, plus Ethan's dad working the grill. The first hour was normal. Weather, work, holiday plans. Ethan kept checking his phone and smiling at messages, immediately changing the subject whenever anyone asked about the Challenger or my job. The shift happened when Jenna asked about honeymoon plans. Ethan launched into upgraded resort packages and first-class flights, none of which we'd actually agreed on. Then he pivoted to how some people weren't stepping up financially to make their shared dreams a reality. He was staring directly at me. Then came the systematic demolition of everything I cared about. My little hobby car was a waste of money. Maybe if I had real ambitions instead of being satisfied with mediocrity, we could afford the wedding he actually deserved. My job was fine for someone without goals. My routine was suffocating. He'd apparently been settling this whole time, hoping I'd eventually grow up and want more from life. Then came the revelation about Vanessa, not just a friend, someone who actually understands what ambition looks like. Someone with a real career, who took him to places that matter. They'd been connecting for months, and she'd shown him, What real chemistry feels like. His family nodded. They'd heard this before. They were in on it. Ethan's dad stopped grilling. Jenna froze in the doorway, pretending to scroll through her phone. The room had that energy you get right before something explosive happens. Then Ethan twisted the engagement ring off his finger and threw it at me. Not handed it back. Threw it. The ring bounced off my chest and clattered across the hardwood floor with this sharp metallic sound. You know what? I'm done with this charade. It's cheap anyway, just like everything else about this relationship. He turned to his family. Did you know she bought this at some discount jewelry store? Vanessa would never accept something so cheap. The whole room went silent except for Ethan's continued monologue. 3 years wasted on someone who thinks fixing trucks is a career, and spending weekends in a garage is a lifestyle. I deserve so much better. He looked at me with pure contempt. I'll forget you in a week. Honestly, I'm already halfway there. Here's the thing. At that moment, I felt this weird calm wash over me. Not anger. Not hurt. Just crystal clear understanding that I was watching someone reveal exactly who they really were. I stood up, walked over, and picked up the ring. White gold band with a 1/4-carat diamond that I'd spent 4 months saving for. Not expensive by some standards, but it represented 4 months of overtime shifts and careful budgeting. I slipped it into my pocket, walked over to where Ethan's dad stood, and pulled his spare house key off my keychain. Thanks for dinner, Mr. Chin. That was it. Didn't defend myself. Didn't correct his lies. Didn't point out he'd been spending my money while cheating. What would be the point? I walked through the dining room where everyone suddenly found their plates fascinating. Made it to the front door and pulled out my phone. One word text to Maya. Implemented. By the time I reached the driveway, Maya's Jeep was pulling up. Perfect timing, we'd planned for this possibility. Well, she said once we were on the main road, that was either the shortest Sunday dinner in history or the most efficient breakup I've ever witnessed. My phone was already buzzing. I didn't look. The drive to my place took 12 minutes. Enough time to start making mental lists. Change locks. Sort banking. Update emergency contacts. Cancel vendors. Practical concerns first. Emotional processing could wait. But here's what really ticked me off. He orchestrated this entire humiliation while owing me money. He'd been using our joint account to fund his affair, then called me cheap in front of his family. The level of manipulation was actually impressive. Monday morning, 6 a.m. sharp. First order of business, new locks. Not just changing codes. I replaced the entire deadbolt assembly with a Schlage Grade 1 that Maya recommended. 45 minutes, $68 at Home Depot. Old hardware went into my toolbox as backup. Ethan had texted 18 times Sunday night and called 11 times before 7 a.m. I read every message, took screenshots, then blocked his number. The messages started with fake apologies. I didn't mean it like that, and escalated to rage mode. You can't just ignore me with threats about coming to get my stuff. Amazing how I'll forget you in a week turned into obsessive messaging, right? Work was normal. Monday night I started the audit. Joint checking. $3,847.32. Joint savings. $12,223.18. I downloaded 12 months of statements, documented everything. The wedding vendor situation was next. I organized everything in folders, contracts, payment schedules, cancellation policies, refund calculations. Caterer. 2-week policy with 60% refund. Venue. 30-day notice, deposits return minus $350 processing fee. DJ. Full refund if more than 2 weeks out. Then I found that February text thread where Ethan agreed to split costs. Makes sense. We're both adults with jobs. Screenshot saved with timestamp. I set up an incident log in a spiral notebook. Date, time, description of any contact attempts. Factual and brief. Tuesday at boxing, my coach had me working combinations on the heavy bag. My timing was off. You pull your punch back too fast. Follow through, then return to guard. Wednesday, Maya showed up with plastic storage bins and her label printer. We went through my house identifying everything that belonged to Ethan. Some clothes, toiletries, maybe 10 books, an ugly throw pillow. 3 years together, and his entire footprint fit in 2 boxes. Each item got photographed and logged. When he came for his stuff, there wouldn't be confusion. Maya also helped set up a shared spreadsheet tracking all wedding expenses. Clean formatting, cancellation deadlines highlighted in red. The Challenger became my evening therapy. Started tearing down the interior, bench seat out, door panels, dash, carpet, headliner. By Friday, I had total control. Ethan's access was removed from everything. Documents organized. Belongings inventoried. New locks installed. Accounts secured. The wedding was 6 weeks away. Most vendors had cancellation policies that worked in my favor if I moved fast. Tuesday morning, vendor calls. Venue coordinator. Referenced the 30-day cancellation clause. Provided booking reference. Requested written confirmation. Deposit refund confirmed. Caterer. 2-week window, 60% refund. I'd paid $2,200, so $1,320 back. DJ full refund, more than 7 days out. Every conversation documented. Date, time, contact person, confirmation numbers, expected refunds. All refunds going to my account since I'd been making the payments. Turns out being the cheap person who actually pays bills has advantages. Thursday, I took the ring to Morrison's Fine Jewelry. The appraiser looked it over for 8 minutes, quoted 65% of retail. Walked out with a check for $1,680. Enough to order the suspension rebuild kit I'd been pricing for the Challenger. Sometimes the trash takes itself out and pays for the privilege. Small claims paperwork. Pennsylvania's system has straightforward forms online. The complaint was simple. Ethan owed me his agreed share of non-refundable wedding expenses. I printed that February text thread. Makes sense. We're both adults with jobs. And highlighted it in yellow. Added copies of all receipts. Total claim, $1,247. Maya came over Thursday to double-check my math and organize the evidence packet. She printed section dividers and arranged everything chronologically like some legal ninja. Filed Friday morning. Got my case number. Ethan would have 30 days to respond once served. By Sunday, I had complete control. Vendor refunds processing. Court paperwork filed. Ethan's belongings are ready. I texted his sister Jenna. Ethan's things are ready. What day works? Response came 3 hours later, scheduling pickup for Tuesday at 6 p.m. For weeks of methodical work to untangle 3 years of planning, I closed my binder and went back to the garage. The Challenger's brake system wasn't going to rebuild itself. The harassment started Thursday with text messages from unknown numbers. Same manipulative nonsense, different area codes. Pittsburgh, Philly, even Ohio numbers. I screenshotted everything before blocking. Sample messages. Everyone knows you're being petty. My family thinks you're pathetic. Vanessa treats me like royalty. You never appreciated what you had. I told everyone at work about your tantrum. They think you're childish. You can ignore me all you want, but you'll never find anyone better. Each screenshot is saved with timestamps. Word started filtering back about what Ethan was telling people. I'd abandoned him at a family dinner, stolen the engagement ring, refused to pay my share of wedding expenses. Classic victim narrative. The workplace incident happened the following Wednesday. I was leaving the yard when security approached me. Ethan had been sitting in visitor parking and tried to walk onto company property when he saw my truck. When security asked him to leave, he claimed to be my fiancé and said there was a family emergency. He told them I was refusing to return his property, and he needed to collect belongings from my work truck. Complete fabrication. He'd already gotten all his stuff. I called the non-emergency police line that evening, explained the pattern, provided the workplace incident number, requested a case file. The officer was professional. Your documentation is exactly what we want to see. Keep logging every incident, no matter how minor. The real tea about Vanessa came 2 weeks later. Turns out they'd been involved for at least 8 months, since before we signed the venue contract. Ethan had been posting photos with her on private social media, while playing devoted fiancé in public. Vanessa's husband found explicit messages dating back to March, including Ethan complaining about having to pretend to be happy with someone so boring while planning a wedding I don't even want anymore. Screenshots showed him asking Vanessa to help him figure out how to get out of this trap without looking like the bad guy. The affair wasn't a passionate awakening. It was a calculated exit strategy. Vanessa's husband called Ethan's office after finding vacation photos from a weekend when Ethan told me he was at a sales conference. Turns out Ethan had charged the hotel to our joint credit card. After the confrontation, Ethan told Vanessa their relationship wasn't serious enough to justify destroying his marriage. He'd lost both his side piece and his fiancé in the same week, which explained the escalating harassment. I kept my routine. Boxing twice weekly. Challenger restoration moving forward. Got the brake lines run properly. Started rebuilding the wiring harness. The motion-activated floodlight worked perfectly. Triggered every time someone approached the driveway. For more drive-by incidents that month, all logged. By mid-November, police suggested maintaining documentation and considering a protection order if behavior escalated. I wasn't there yet, but the incident log was getting thicker. Small claims hearing. Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m. I arrived 20 minutes early with my complete documentation packet. Ethan showed up at 9:25 with no lawyer, carrying a folder that looked thrown together the night before. The magistrate called our case at 9:35 and asked me to present first. I walked through wedding expenses chronologically, referenced the written agreement, and explained which costs were non-refundable. $1,247 plus $78 filing fee. Ethan argued that I canceled the wedding unilaterally, so he shouldn't be responsible. The magistrate asked if he had documentation showing he hadn't agreed to split expenses equally. He didn't. Asked if he disputed the expense amounts or cancellation timing. He didn't. Judgment for the plaintiff. $1,325 total. The judge stamped the order. 15 minutes of testimony, 5 minutes of deliberation. 3 years reduced to contract law and supporting documentation. Ethan paid within 15 days. The surveillance stopped completely after court. Problem solved through proper documentation and legal channels. Then came the grand finale. 3 weeks after court, I was in the garage around 9 p.m. working on the Challenger's interior. My friend Marcus from the parts yard was there helping install new seat covers. The motion light triggered. We both looked up when we heard a car door slam. Ethan stumbled into the garage light, clearly impaired. Pajama pants, hoodie, hair looking like he'd been sleeping in his car. The smell hit us from 10 feet away. "There you are," he slurred, pointing with a half-empty drink. "Living your sad little life in this pathetic garage?" Marcus looked at me with raised eyebrows. "Is this?" "Yep. Unfortunately." Ethan's eyes locked onto Marcus and his face twisted. "Oh, what the hell is this? Already moved on to some random guy?" Marcus laughed and kept working on the seat installation. "Lady, I've rebuilt more engines than you've had bad decisions. But sure, I'm the problem here. You think you're so smart with your little court games and your stupid car?" Ethan took a swig and nearly lost his balance. "I came here to tell you what a pathetic loser you are." "Mission accomplished," I said, pulling out my phone to call 911. "You're drunk on my property and violating the trespass warning. You can't call the cops on me. We were together for 3 years. The 911 dispatcher answered on the second ring. I gave my address, explained we had an impaired trespasser who'd been harassing me for months, and referenced my existing case number. Ethan heard case number and completely lost it. "Case number? You actually have a case number for me? What kind of psycho are you?" Marcus looked up from the seat. "The kind who documents everything properly. You should try it sometime." "Nobody asked you." Marcus stood up slowly, wrench still in hand. "I'm sorry." "What did you just say?" Something in Marcus's tone made Ethan take a step back. I was just... "No, please finish your thought. I want to hear what someone who cheats on their fiancé and then stalks her thinks about my character." The police car pulled into the driveway with perfect timing. Lights flashing, no siren. 2 officers got out and approached the garage. "Evening, folks. We got a call about a trespassing situation." I handed him my incident log. The officer flipped through a few pages and nodded. "Ma'am, have you been drinking tonight?" Ethan tried to hide the Kim behind his back. I just came here to get closure. The second officer looked around the garage. By showing up uninvited at 9 p.m. with a beverage and calling people names? She ruined my life. My whole life is messed up because of her. Marcus couldn't help himself. Your life is messed up because you cheated on someone who was paying for your wedding. That's not her fault. That's just the consequences. You don't know anything about me. I know you're standing impaired in someone else's garage at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, yelling at people who are trying to ignore you. The first officer was trying not to laugh. Sir, I'm going to need you to take a field sobriety test. Ethan failed. Couldn't walk a straight line. Couldn't touch his nose. Couldn't recite the alphabet past M. The breathalyzer numbers were well over the legal limit. You're under arrest for trespassing and public intoxication. As they put him in handcuffs, Ethan started crying and screaming. This is all her fault. She abandoned me. She never appreciated me. The officer looked at me while his partner loaded Ethan into the cruiser. Domestic situations are never fun, but your documentation made this pretty straightforward. He'll spend the night in county lockup. Probably get released tomorrow with a court date. After they left, Marcus and I stood in the garage listening to the Challenger's idol. He picked up his wrench and went back to work on the seat. Well, he said without looking up. That was entertaining. Yep. Marcus torqued down the last bolt and patted the seat. There. Want to take her for a test drive? We drove around the neighborhood for 20 minutes, windows down, 340 rumbling through the exhaust. The car ran perfectly. Turns out the best revenge is living well and having friends who appreciate good craftsmanship. Ethan said he'd forget me in a week, but he's the one who can't seem to move on. Meanwhile, I've got a fully restored Challenger, a clean credit report, and zero tolerance for people who confuse ambition with basic human decency. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have supported you, drop a comment. Share your story. You're not alone. And if this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. More real stories about standing up for yourself coming your way. See you in the next one.